So this was obviously recorded before some of the ceasefire talks that have taken place, but the message still is relevant, I think, and given history, I think our involvement in the Middle East is going to last a little longer than a couple of days. So all right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Full Metal Cast. It is with great sadness that I inform you that this episode 69, is not going to be the episode or the funniest episode that it could be and that it was supposed to be, on account of Trump throwing us into war with Iran. And no, I'm not gonna just be all pissy and moany about it. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here. I can still make light of the situation. Um, However, I think I'd like to kick this thing off by opening the floor up to anyone, and this accounts for DMs, emails, however you want to reach out to me in the comments, whatever it is. Paint this war, this conflict that we've now gotten into with Iran, in a positive light for America. Tell me how this is good for us. Please, I would just love to hear the argument how this war, how getting involved in directly, bombing and getting, involved in this conflict with Iran is good for America, and it's not just for Israel. And the only argument that's been made, the only argument that's been proposed by every angle has been the nuke angle. They're developing a nuclear weapon. They're close to getting a nuke, which is just the same as, Iraq has WMDs way back in the day. And you all fell for it. We all fell for it. Despite the fact that Tulsi Gabbard not just 3 months ago testified before Congress saying that the intelligence community has confirmed Iran is not developing a nuclear weapon. So someone's lying. Trump or Gabbard is lying. My only question is, who's going to hang for treason for lying to the very people who elected them, to the very people who pay their salaries? Who gets in trouble for that? Who loses their job, and who provides their own pound of flesh to us as a way of saying, I'm sorry for fucking us over like that? That's insane. How can those two things be said? How can Trump 3 months later say, I think they're very close, drop however many bunker busters it was and missiles, whatever, they can't have a nuke? By the way, I saw that one of the political betting sites had listed the odds for America dropping a bunker buster before the 4th of July. Pretty good odds. I saw someone bet 12,000 on it. So congrats to whoever that was who, made a great return on their investment, assuming the best about America and, following uh, our history over the past couple of years, especially the last 3 or 4 years, and how we love to get involved in wars we have zero fucking business being involved in. Forget playing the stock market. I'm going to start betting on whatever site that is going forward. But this nuke argument is so fucking retarded. Let's say that magically they were developing a nuke, and that, in the course of 3 months since Gabbard testified, assuming she wasn't lying, let's assume nobody's lying to us in our own government, right? It's a crazy thought. They've never lied to us before, so why do we assume they'd ever lie to us, right? Let's assume that they're telling the truth, and that 3 months ago they weren't developing a nuke, and then suddenly, magically, they're days away from having a nuke, right? So fucking what? Why do we care? Why should we care if Iran has a nuke? Are they the only country that's not allowed to have a nuke? And given their neighbors, and given how we are just pumping money and bombs and munitions to their neighbors, just go out and take all of the surrounding area, why would Iran not want a nuke? Like, it's insane that to say that, one, they are developing it. It's even crazier to then go after them for developing it, given the fact that, oh yeah, by the way, back during Obama's reign, we gave them the nuclear program. This is like us buying the Louisiana Purchase from the French, and the French coming back a few years later going, actually, fuck you. We don't like that you're actually doing things to this. You shouldn't have it. It's insane. And I think this is literally, I've spoken about this before, how politicians, how government cannot make any real change in a country. They can't fix the infrastructure. The roads blow. They can't provide adequate electricity. lost power a few times already in this summer, and it was just over a few couple of strong wind gusts, right? They still haven't been able to provide clean drinking water to the population. There's problems like boiling over, and it's only getting worse every single year, and even more so every single election cycle, and they can't solve that. But you know what they can do, and that they can sort of point to or reference as sort of like an achievement, as backwards and as fucked up as it is. They can point to absolutely leveled nations that they either directly or indirectly contributed to, right? They can say, we prevented our greatest enemy, which magically is Iran, suddenly overnight, from getting a nuclear weapon and destroying us, which is, it's absolutely insane, right? Instead of fixing all of the problems in this country, instead of lowering the debt, instead of bringing down inflation, instead of making things less expensive and being allowing individuals, an everyday person, to afford a house, we're now getting involved in a war in the Middle East. That's insane. How is, and Tim Dillon said it best, is Iran the reason why there's fentanyl everywhere? Is Iran the reason why things are so expensive? Is Iran the reason why I can't buy a house? How the fuck is this good for me and everyone here? And JD Vance, he summed it up perfectly. And I'm going to get into this a little bit right after this. JD Vance in an interview, he's basically pressed, what do you have to say about all these people providing pushback to Trump, making the decision to get involved with Iran, and, it not being an America first action. Vance literally said Trump gets to decide the definition, or, what putting America first means. Trump gets to decide, not you. Fuck you. Trump gets to decide. And that's exactly how a hillbilly like that rises the ranks so quickly in fucking government. You brown nose and you suck up to the person who's just above you, the next highest rank, and that's how you climb the ladder. And that's why that dude scared the shit out of me. He didn't come in with any tech money. He didn't come in with any big sort of, nepotism and, hedge fund, big money background like a lot of these fucking clowns, these privileged clowns did. This guy came from nothing. And he climbed the ranks very quickly and got on Trump's radar back when his first term was, immediately. And when he suddenly got, tapped to become the VP, everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy? Where did he come from? Seeing that climb and that rise from so little to so much that quickly scares the shit out of me, because the backroom blowjobs that guy had to give and whatever he conceded to get his power, that dude is soulless and he will sell anyone and anything to get his moment in the spotlight and to get his fucking power. And to go in front of the American people who chose him and Trump and tell them that Trump gets to decide what America first means, was we the people, you asshole. Fuck you. But you know what? This goes back to November and even the months leading up to it last year, when me and the like-minded folks like me, were going through all the reasons why it didn't fucking matter if it was Trump or Biden, and that voting is just a way for everyone to shirk their responsibility if they want to actually change things and do something different in this country. And we were spoken down to by so many in this sphere. And I've shared this before. I was so disappointed by the number of individuals in this sphere who came after us, who either subtweeted us or came at us directly, speaking down as if they were morally superior to us, that it's your holy and your obligation to vote. It's a sacred duty to vote in this nation. That's how you produce change. Despite the fact, despite the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Look at where voting's got. Look at where it's gotten us so far. There's not a single election that's happened that regardless of who won, it would have avoided this. This is what your vote got you. You put your name on this. You consented to this. You sold your soul for this. You would rather have worshipped this man, this politician. You would have shirked responsibility on your own and sort of abandoned that comfort, that sort of to fulfill your own ego and your self-fulfillment, to feel like you were supporting your favorite team in red versus blue. So you head to the polls and you vote so you could see your team on top, right? And you sort of take that as, that's enough for me. I did my part in making this country better, and that's it. I don't have to do anything else, right? That act in and of itself is a mark and a symbol to me that you value your comfort more than your freedom. You would rather be a peaceful slave than an uncomfortable or dead free man. And I'm not going to lie. If that's your choice, so be it. fine, you have the freedom to make that choice again, right? But do not speak down to those who called this back months before it even happened last year, in the winter of last year. Do not pretend as if you did what was right for this country and you put this place back on the right map. And that's all that you contributed, right, to helping this country. You didn't sort of morally and non-violently resist the government. You didn't avoid paying them taxes. You didn't avoid government jobs, right? You still supported the machine fully. You contributed to the tyranny that we all suffer under because we exist in this, 2A sort of gun sphere, right? You just put your name on a piece of paper, you checked a few boxes, and you saved democracy, you saved the Constitution, you saved your right to carry a gun, and you're going to make this nation a healthier and safer place, despite not changing the landscape that any of these politicians operate in. They have zero accountability. They do not have to take any responsibility for their actions. They answer to nobody but themselves. You have zero recourse to ensure that they stay on the right track. And what's happening right now is exhibit A of that. And this isn't new. This isn't something that just developed, right? Our abysmal human attention spans just happen to forget the past year, the past few months, every time an election cycle comes around, and we say, "Oh, yeah, we had to vote for the right guy. We have to fix this by putting someone else of a different party in, or a different head of a different party in to rewrite the ship." This is crazy. But every year leading up to this, it's been just getting worse and worse and worse, and more government has only increased the suffering. I'm not saying that completely eliminating the government or reducing the government is going to revert that course, but I won't be suffering as a slave. I won't be suffering against my will, or at the threat of imprisonment or death if I don't just comply with these people. And if you look at that situation room, if you see the pictures posted of the situation room as these bombings were going out, Marjorie Greene Taylor, Trump, JD Vance, the Fox News host who's like the Secretary of Defense, whatever the fuck, these people couldn't run a fast food restaurant. They could not run a basic entry level job, and here they are throwing this country into another Middle Eastern war, another nuclear potentially charged war, right? And to put your life and your freedom and your soul in the hands of these soulless, corrupt people year after year, time after time, and then pretend as if you are morally superior to the rest, or anyone else for that matter, drives me crazy. You can't make that make sense to me. So you voted for this. Everyone who voted for this, everyone who voted for Trump, you voted for this. And you voted for Biden, you did too. Didn't matter. This is what politicians do. This is all that they can do. They could only kill other civilians and send you off to get killed for them. That's it. These people are not the answer to anything. They cannot solve anything because they have not solved anything. They have never provided anything to you once. They have neglected their duties year after year, time after time, and the only thing they have to show on their resume is wars. That's it. Wars and a pandemic, most recent, I guess, history and how they reacted and what they did with that. Even still, that really wasn't adequate from a federal level, was it now? But I think just to backtrack and close the door on the Iran thing, their neighbor Israel is the only country that is a nuclear superpower. They have a nuclear arsenal. They do not have to disclose that they have one, though. They do not have to disclose how many they have, and they are not subject to inspections. Despite all the other countries that have signed treaties and agreed to these inspections to stay above board and honest and open with everybody, Israel is the only one that's allowed to have them and not be subjected to any of that. And considering Israel's behavior in the region, why, if you were their neighbor, would you not want to arm yourself as a deterrent against such a terrible country like that? And again, they get a nuke. Who the fuck cares? They can't touch us. They're at least decades away from developing the missile technology to be able to even touch us from that far. There's only it's probably closer to half a dozen, maybe less, definitely less of countries that would actually want to do it. Countries that actually have the ability to touch us with missiles. Obviously Russia, China, North Korea. There's probably a few others as well that had the capabilities, but they're less likely to actually want to reach out and touch us. There's no reality in which Iran can hit us with a nuke, should they even develop one. But why would they even want to? There should never be a scenario in which Iran would want to hit America with a nuke, with a missile at all. Why? Did any of us piss off the people in the nation of Iran? No, it's these people who you elected to take care of things in this country, fucking around and doing things over there and in other countries, making the world and your country a less safe place for you and I. That's not what you voted for. But it is at the same time, considering history and the amount of information available to you, you would know that that's exactly what you get on a ballot. That's all you're ever going to get on a ballot. And the argument these people who refuse to understand and abandon the comfort of writing on a ballot every year will tell you is, why don't you run, why don't you change things? And we've seen time and time again the good guys, quote unquote, who try to get in, who try to run, who try to do the right thing. They never see a ballot. They never make it to a big enough ballot. And even if they do, they're never going to win. The system isn't designed for people like that. The only way to win this election is to promise the most amount of kickbacks to people who are funding your campaign. Those kickbacks never align with the people of this country, simply the corporations and the industries that are funding your campaign. And by nature, then, only the most corrupt, wicked, and vile of us are attracted to those positions of power because it allows them to live above the law, rule over the rest of us while they collect our tax dollars as their paychecks. And they can go on insider trading and collecting other gifts and things of interest and whatnot. These people aren't in it for public service. They never have been. You can't pick one that has been since. You will not be able to fix things from the inside because the inside, the government, is the problem. Never in recorded history has a nation ever voted itself out of tyranny. That's just a fact. So I'm not going to listen to these insane people talk down to me anymore. Or I'm not going to respect their opinion on this matter, especially if I saw them celebrating like they just won the fucking Super Bowl when this boy got in. And now he is defining America first as another sand war in the Middle East. And this isn't even one where we have a mineral deal. We're not even going over there for oil. We're simply doing this for Israel. America first, ladies and gentlemen. And in all of the history of made up political theater that really doesn't matter, it's all performative, it's just for votes and talking points for these asshats. If you were ever going to try to impeach a standing president, this is it. This is the most justified instance of that right now. You want to charge him with something, you want to kick him out, this is it. Every other time you try to nail a president or representative and get them thrown out or impeached or locked away, this is the one. This is the only one that I'm aware of since I've been alive or in recent history that is actually morally sound and justified across the board. I don't understand why there's not more talks of that right now. Get us out of this war. Get us out of all the wars we're involved in, like he fucking said he would, right? But again, this is what you vote for. This is the only thing on the ballot, both sides, every single election cycle, and it's not going to change. Voting isn't non-violently resisting or rebelling against the government. Again, are you paying taxes? Are you minimizing the amount you pay in taxes? Are you avoiding at every turn paying more to the government or anything to the government at all, right? Are you employed by the government? Do you have a government job? Probably should look away from that. Probably should step away from that, right? So start doing these things. And it seems small, right? I get it. But the more you shame these people in office, the more you shame these people for working for the state, the more power you take away from them, right? And the more you grow the ranks outside of the state, right? There are still an incredible amount of people who are committed to this idea of being a statist, right? And working for the state, right? People still push the buttons to drop those bombs and launch those missiles at Iran last night, right? There's still plenty of triggermen out in the world. That's a very big hill to climb. I get that. But at the end of the day, they have to feed their families, right? That's the same excuse for all the cops to do the wrong thing as well. And they will continue to do the wrong thing. And I've been over this example again. If the government tomorrow says confiscate every firearm from every gun owner, it's not going to be Trump. It's not going to be Whitmer. It's not going to be whoever knocking on your door. It's going to be your local police department doing that. It's going to be your sheriffs. It's going to be the cops that you likely see and in your city or your town coming and under the threat of violence, stealing your guns from you, despite your rights, despite you following the law, since we are all lawful gun owners. They're going to just do that to feed their families. And you have to understand, right? Your rights in the Constitution be damned. Those people do exist, and that is the nature of government, and that is why supporting it in any way is fucking insane. And thinking that it's going to change from the inside, it's not this. The infrastructure of government is not laid or designed to allow it to be changed from the inside. I think Thomas Massey is a pretty good example. Let's pretend, that he's all holy and good and well-being, right? He's pretty resistant to the non-America first things that Trump is doing. He's pretty vocal about it. He seems to be the only one. He can't do anything. He's not allowed. He's not able to do anything. I think he may have slipped through the cracks. He probably found his way into power, and he started speaking out against said power, and he's left sort of on his own in a bit of an island. I don't think there has just never been an example of somebody changing it from the inside. You will never find anybody who's the best qualified individual to be a public servant find their way to government just due to the way that elections were, just due to the way that the government itself is designed. We're at the point where it's my belief, I'm not going to say it as if it's dogmatic fact. It's my belief that we're past the point, but right now we really need to start resisting in a nonviolent, peaceful, and a moral manner, or else things are just going to get infinitely worse. Again, has this place felt safer year over year? Have we been healthier, happier? Have we been able to afford more year over year? Or has everything been less sort of certain, dangerous, and just out of control? And I think that just sort of proves that the government cannot provide a sense of stability anymore. The bare minimum of just safety and basic infrastructure, they're unable to provide. I think you're going to have a really hard time proving otherwise, to be honest with you. And this is going to go, well, nothing's happened yet. So agreed, sure. But I think it's pretty hard to argue that we are on the wrong path. And we have been for a while currently. I don't think I think I'm too old to be drafted at the moment. Obviously, that'll change as we need more bodies, or they just want to start getting rid of some of the military age fighting males here. I have brothers who are able to be drafted, though. I don't think it will come to that, but that's a scary proposition for them. We got to talking about it last night. And none of them are going to go, right? We're not fighting for our country. We're fighting for Israel. And the interests of the military-industrial complex, clearly. But there's not been a war in recent history where we are fighting for this country. They've all been waged under false pretenses. And it's cool to, look at military tech and, talk about the interesting sort of aspects of it and the development that went into this stuff. That's neat. We're guys. I'm not going to say it's not cool to look at jets and, the bunker busters and whatnot. That's cool shit to look at and to talk about. But there's no way that you could possibly convince me and most people that I'm with to get after it and join right now. We've been on the United States and its government, the United States government, not just and its government, just the United States government has been on the wrong side of history on a lot of things. And the internet showed us that. The book's sort of been open. We've gotten a peek behind the curtain. A lot of the really nasty, horrible shit the government has done and is responsible for. And this one we're watching in real time. This is not going to require a Freedom of Information Act after the fact. We're watching it unfold at a very large scale live. There is no more cloak and dagger. It's very open and in your face. Fuck you. Regardless of what you voted for, regardless how bad this is for you or how little this has to do with you, we're going to do it anyway just because we fucking want to. That's where we're at now. And that's why I truly do believe we're past the point of seriously starting to resist these people in a nonviolent, moral, and peaceful way, of course. Because it's at the point now where you have no say. There's still a great deal of unknown about elections in this country. Again, it is the least transparent popularity contest to ever exist. You have no idea how it works. You're just told that it does indeed work. And if you do question it, You get arrested and smeared and sued for spreading, election disinformation, or, questioning the legitimacy of elections as if it's this holy thing, right? However, there's a lot of stuff that did happen. Again, I'm going back to like when Biden got elected. There's a lot of video and forensic evidence that things were happening. I don't think that it would have shown Trump would have won by any means, but there's a lot of question marks that weren't addressed objectively, regardless of whatever side you find yourself on. Like I don't. Again, I hate both sides equally. That's why I'm talking about this. I can objectively say like there were a lot of unknowns and head scratchers that came up that never got addressed, that never got looked at, that we never got answers to. And again, if it's this big sacred holy obligation that we must do because people died for this right to vote for the worst or the least worst tyrant on the planet to run this country, right? Like we should at least know how it works and that it does indeed work. We should have the ability to question it and get answers back on that. But again, it doesn't matter who ends up in office. This would have been the result either way. I'm convinced if Kamala was in, this we would have been right here sooner or later. Honestly, it would have been no different. And I'm tired. I find myself tired of being frustrated. I the hatred is so great, it's exhausting. And this is coming from somebody who, says do the things that fulfill you, that makes you happy, you know, don't become a slave to the things outside of your control. And I do that. Like to the best of my ability, I do that. Obviously when things like this flare up, I gotta do something like this to get it out. But yesterday was an absolutely gorgeous day, like almost 100 degrees. Found my way outside near a lake and was able just to unplug, enjoy a cigar, a few beers, and just sit back and enjoy just nature and just the sun and the warmth. It was an amazing day. And the second I pick up my phone, I see the headline: President Trump has joined the war with Iran and dropped however many bombs at this time and targeted the nuclear facilities. Um, it is so incredibly disheartening. And to go back to the last video when I was responding to Dirty Civilian, to borrow the phrase, God's greatest creation, the most prized possession of God, us. And I'll also loop in this beautiful planet, its design, its the nature, how everything works together. It's the most beautiful thing to me that I cannot get enough of. To give us up and this beautiful world that we live in to the most vile, corrupt, immoral people ever conceived is it's just it's the core of everything that I hate. Again, I don't hate anyone on this planet. I don't know anyone besides politicians, obviously. I don't know anyone enough really to truly hate them. No one has slighted me, I can say, knock on wood, enough for me to say I hate that person. And that goes for everyone in Iran. I don't know anyone in Iran, and no one in Iran knows me. When they're chanting death to America, it's not death to you and me. It's death to our fucking politicians, the very small percentage of us who refuse to leave it alone and send whatever money and munitions Israel wants over there so that Israel can continue leveling the place to steal for themselves. We want death to our politicians. And again, I think this goes back to the point that most people outside of government, the majority of everyone on this earth, all want the same thing. Maybe it is death to a government. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But to backtrack, the fact that the things that are most beautiful in this life, the things that we enjoy and value the most, the things that make us human, the things that make us happy and healthy, are just left to be raped and destroyed. And go back and look at the picture of the Situation Room. Look at everyone in that picture. These beautiful things are left to these people. to destroy and to take away and to profit from, right? The huge swath of land they're selling off. They're trying to sneak into the budget bill. So like, yeah, we may get the short in the Hearing Protection Act, but we lose a ton of public land so they can sell it to BlackRock for their own profit. And BlackRock can develop some soulless condo complex on the public's land, on our land. One example, very small, but one example. To the fact that they hold that stuff in their hands, their stupid, fat, pudgy, uncoordinated, incompetent nepotism, I'm being nice here, hands, drives me crazy. Yes, they hold power, and that's obviously extremely, discouraging, and I hate that as well. But the fact that they get to control that stuff, the fact that they can impact the outcome on those things, on our lives and on this planet and the beauty that surrounds us, that, we need to be a part of in order to be healthy and happy, drives me. It is the core again of everything that I hate. One of the many reasons why I just cannot ever myself sell my soul and give in to my human impulses and my ego and my self-importance to vote. One, because I don't believe that it does anything, doesn't matter at the end of the day, because again, look at the outcome here. It wouldn't have mattered who was in office. But two, there's not a single person that has ever appeared on a ballot or will ever appear on a ballot that is moral enough, that is strong enough, that is good enough to hold my soul, my rights, and the beauty of this planet in their hands. Nobody. That person does not exist. I'm not even that person. I would never want that power. I would never seek that out myself. Right? Sure, I could do it for myself, but never once am I ever going to believe that I know what's best for you, or that I know what's best for the entire country, for fuck's sake, right? And that's another thing to sort of grasp with. The mental math these people had to go through to think, I'm going to run for president because I know what's best, or I'm going to run for X seat because I know what's best for everyone else. I'm going to make it right, right? We're all human. We're all very different. Nothing's black and white. I think we all do want the same thing. How we get to whatever thing that is going to be different across every person, because everyone's wants and needs are different, because we're all unique and special, and that's what makes us great. That's what contributes to this beautiful life that we live in. But to think that your way is the best way, that you are going to solve everyone's problems, that everything's going to be remade in your light and image, and everyone will be happy and thank you for it, is an arrogance, and it's a peek into the mindset of the politician, right? Power does not corrupt. Power simply attracts the most corrupt of us. And so to trust anyone who seeks a ballot, to think that they're going to be the ones to restore natural rights and keep things in order of nature, for lack of a better word, as we're talking about natural rights, uh, restoring that and preserving that, to think that they're going to do that is insane, again, by definition. Look at where we are. Look at where it's gotten you. And to wrestle with that is extremely uncomfortable, I understand, right? But that just goes back to the freedom is greater than comfort pillar. It's going to really suck, right? There's going to be times where, you have to accept the fact that I would rather die free. And it might be a horrific death. It might be a really rough life to live free. Or you can be subjected to this as a comfortable slave, losing more year after year, day after day. Again, I've done that sort of simulation, that calculation in my head. I've come to terms with that. I'm comfortable with that. I understand that. And obviously it's easy to say now I get it, like from a position of relative comfort. Um, but I can, I embracing the suck isn't really, I think, the right word I want to say, but like, that's part of the mindset of understanding, like, yeah, this might suck. I'm going to have to learn a lot of things. I'm going to have to change the way I do a lot of things. But if that means I don't pay taxes, if that means I don't have to pay to go certain places or ask for permission to drive my car or pay taxes on land that I've built my home on, and worry about my quote unquote representatives waging war against a country on the other side of the world that I couldn't even point out on a map and that I know nobody who even lives in, then so be it. Then so fucking be it. There are more problems here that are only getting worse because they're ignored by our politicians because they lied to you on the campaign trail saying they're going to do X, Y, and Z, knowing that they can't do fuck all. And the second they get in, they turn around and they do this shit. I would much rather be an uncomfortable or dead free man than a comfortable slave. And that's just the reality of it. And I'm not going to take the out that voting is how I change it, because it never has. There's never once in history again where voting has ever reversed the course of tyranny, of rights being taken away. And considering the path that we're on, I'm I'm not going to entertain or listen to those who feel as though they can speak down to me and educate me as to how that works. Again, are you a statist or not? That's what it's going to come down to. Are you comfortable enough to accept the fact that being a statist, that wanting this government that we have today and to let it grow is only going to increase the path of suffering that we're on and sort of push us further down it? Because if that's not the conclusion that you come to, show your work, right? Show me the math, show me how you got there. Make that make sense. Again, that's just how the system's been designed. A thing is defined by what it does, and that's our government. So again, apologies for this episode being not as fun or as funny as I promised it to be. We'll get the boys on soon. This happened last night though, and I knew I needed an episode for this week. And while it is short, I figured I'd give my thoughts on it. Do I think Russia and China will get involved? No. They'll do, like we saw, low pass like flybys with their jets by our carriers in the ocean. They'll show force. I don't think they want to get involved. It's definitely not smart for us to get involved to waste resources on this while China is still a very large and real threat. I think with the whole Taiwan thing and dragging us into another war that I know we're going to bite and go all in on as well when that happens. Again, there's just no way to paint this as a smart move to be involved in this. Do I think it will be World War III? My gut is no. The devil's argument side of that is the Middle East is a great playground for the superpowers to wage a very large war in, right? Because it's not on their turf. I don't think, well, I know the US has no problem raping that region for whatever reason it may be. Israel will still fight with the promise of more land, and Russia and China will have no problem, again, glassing that region and not having this happen in their own backyard. So that's one way to look at it, no doubt. But I do think this whole thing's very silly and very foolish. What I do fear is, America's not the good guy here. We're the bad guy in this story. And if other countries start threatening us and start retaliating against us, we have a bit of a larger issue. Again, this is like absolute worst case scenario. Realistically, I don't see this happening. But this is the path that we're on. We're not the good guys. You cannot paint us as the heroes in this story. And that's something that I would like to avoid, that I really don't like. But unfortunately, there's really no captains of the ship, eligible captains or captains currently on the ship that can really write it. So it's just a clench and pray thing, really. Continue to control your controllables and bring things into your sphere of influence that you can. But I think it's time for a lot of people to really start rethinking their stances and their beliefs. Because damn. I pray that this example does not go ignored, does not get forgotten thanks to our microscopic attention spans and massive egos when it comes time to the next election. And what you do every day going forward. How do you live your life? Is it as anti-state as possible? Right. The bad guys, the mark of the beast, as you would have it, isn't some cryptic hidden thing. It's, do they work for the state? Are they a politician? Are they the trigger man for the state? Are they the tax man for the state? Are they that's a pretty easy tell to know if they're the bad guys or not. And that sucks, right? So that's another really gray thing to wrestle with and to come to terms with. But that's the reality of it, right? Um, so yeah, I'm not really sure how much more I can beat that horse dead. Um, I feel like I'm going to really start stepping up a lot of the rhetoric, and be a little more open with, and not as veiled in some of the things that I say. Again, we have this printing press, which is the internet. We have social media, as horrible and as incestuous as it is. We have the greatest printing press ever conceived. And yes, we are battling censorship at every turn, but we can control and form and shape and steer narratives better than ever before, despite all of the things working against us today. And the more you normalize and the more you talk about just the evil that our government is and what they do and how they're just incompatible with freedom, and living a peaceful, healthy, and happy life, the more things change. And it's going to be a slow burn. It's going to be a slow change. I get it. But the normalization of, I think, understanding that your elected officials are the evil in your backyard is only of tremendous benefit to everyone outside of the government, obviously. And that's something that needs to continue to happen. I think the veil is slowly being lifted inch by inch, again, very slowly. I think more people are becoming aware of how bad it is, especially after this move with Iran. I see a lot of backlash from both sides, which is good, right? But I think the next test will really be what happens next election season, or what happens the next time a bill is proposed, a big controversial bill that is proposed, whether it be abortion or gun rights, right? Those are really two easy levers both sides like to push to sort of really reestablish and redraw the party lines, right? Who's still a red and blue voter, right? Do we still have two bases we can pit against each other for votes to sort of keep this little jobs program for the people in which there isn't a deep enough hole to put them in? um the next time one of those things comes around, again, the election or the controversial bill, we'll see how large that black mass that I've mentioned has grown. If you look at an electoral map on election nights, is a state red or blue? The black mass is a high, sort of my term, if you're looking at it from that map perspective, of people who just hate both sides, who want them both gone for good, right? I think the more disillusioned people, I think that number is growing. There are more disillusioned people now than before, thanks to this move. But again, we won't get a deal of how effective it was and how well it stayed in the minds of us, and perhaps how fragile the human ego is, again, when one of those things comes to rear its ugly head again. So stay tuned, I guess, for that. Stay safe. I know there's talks about like Iranian sleeper cells in different states and cities. And well, I do think a lot of that is like fear mongering to help, rile up the base and to sort of get support for this war. I'm also not completely naive to pretend there aren't a lot of pockets of sort of extremists in this country, whether it be through the past couple of years of open borders, or a very slow leak of them within the country, especially in certain really densely packed Muslim communities and cities. I'm not going to pretend like that's not a real thing. So stay safe, just stay vigilant. Stay strapped. Keep your medical on you or in your car, most on you if you can, obviously. Because again, that's just controlling the things that you can control. It sucks you're in the situation, but you're in the situation, right? So let's do what we can now and going forward to make the best of it. And enjoy the summer of love, baby. Right? Like we're here. Bombs are falling. We're dropping them. They're not here though. You know, it sucks, but and I know I mentioned it earlier. I tend to get a little in my own head about this, just regarding how frustrating and how full of hatred I can be as it relates to this stuff. Not something that's good, not something that I encourage, obviously. So find things that fulfill you, find the things that you can control and focus on them. That's how you sort of shake that. That's how you get out of that. And again, that's how you make the best of any situation. So keep doing that. Keep moving forward. Today's the last day. Well, this will come out after that. The pre-order for the Summer of Love tank tops will be closed. Maybe we get a World War III drop. We'll see. But there's a couple of hang 'em all designs I've been playing around with. So I think those will find their way on some shorts because in a recent poll I posted on the story, people wanted some gym shorts. So we're going to get to working on those for the next drop, it looks like. But again, sorry for the doom and gloom episode as we inch closer to World War III, it would seem. And I do apologize that episode 69 was not up to its full potential as I had promised, but I will make up for that. That is my word. But until next time, stay metal. Thank you.